Hey guys, it's Judy from Nutrition with Judy. Okay, thank you for joining me today. For those of you that don't know me, I am Judy Cho and I am a nutritional therapy practitioner. I also am the author of Carnivore Cure. I work with clients to get them to root cause healing, and that oftentimes is very much related to gut health and using a meat-based elimination diet. And on social media platforms, I also help you to get to your root cause healing. So at this point, I think that most people understand that they need to get to root cause healing, but what is root cause, right? So I get asked so often, okay, I get it. So I need a root cause heal. I need to get to root cause healing. I need to heal my gut, but how do I do that? So today I'm just going to talk through my symptom burden assessment and just part of my initial consult. So I am going to show you two clients. Well, actually one is me, but I have approval to share one of my clients' results. And so I'm going to share hers and then I'm going to share mine and just kind of the progression that you can see using levers to basically get you to better health. Okay, so before we get started, I just want to put out the medical disclaimer that this is not medical advice. Don't ever take this as medical advice. For every single client I work with, I make them sign a disclaimer knowing that this is kind of nutritional support and my sort of realm of things does not provide you medical guidance. So as an FYI, please don't take this as medical advice. Now, I do find healing in it. There are people that get off medications, but always work with your doctor to be the advocate that you want to say to get off meds, but make sure to work closely with your doctor and work with a practitioner or a professional to make sure that what you're doing is the right thing for you and that you are not risking any health detriments. This is called the symptom burden assessment, and basically what this graphic is showing you is that everything from the upper GI, liver, gallbladder, small intestine, large intestine, that is basically all our gut health, and then it's also minerals, fatty acids, and sugar handling. This is what we consider the foundations, and it is considered basically root cause. So essentially, if you think about this, if you are struggling with any area in the foundation section, again, so it's basically your gut health, minerals, fatty acids, and sugar handling. If any of these are imbalanced, then you will notice the consequences to the right side. So that is possibly vitamin needs, your adrenals, pituitary, thyroid, so all the hormones parts, the female reproduction, the cardiovascular, kidney, and then immune health. And it'll be too long if I try to explain everything. So I'm just going to explain one thing. But if you think about gut health, so this particular person, her small intestine shows that she obviously needs support, right? So the priority shows high or medium to high. And so this to me is showing that she probably will have some immune systems or immune imbalances because most of your immune health is in your small intestine. And this is also where you absorb your nutrients. So I would not be surprised if she was not absorbing her minerals that well. Maybe her vitamin needs will be higher. And, obviously this is based on questions that she's answering on her own, but I would have expected the vitamin need to be a little bit higher than it shows, but her immune system shows that it needs a little bit of support. So that to me is indicative of, okay, yeah, so it's clear that something's going on with her small intestine. She may need some probiotics that will help rebalance the population in the small intestine. And then she may also need some nutrients to help seal the small intestine. But again, the overarching kind of point of this graphic is to show you guys, this is how I help my clients get to root cause healing. So I have so many clients that come to me for thyroid or pituitary issues, right? Or the female reproductive issues, but I don't look at that first. I look at, and because normally there will be something else in the foundational section or the root cause section that shows me, okay, yes, this person needs support. And so if you look at this person, the number one thing that it shows the most deficiency is fatty acids. Then I want to peel a layer back and see, okay, so what questions did she answer for her fatty acids to be showing a deficiency? So if you look at the next slide, this is some of the questions that she responded to, right? So I look over here and I see in the fatty acids, right? So she gets tension headaches at the base of her skull. Might be fatty acid. Now that could also be adrenal related. It could also be minerals. So the more you work with someone that's experienced, the more they can kind of parse through the different symptoms and see trends that, okay, the headache actually, yes, it could be fatty acids, but I know she's deficient in minerals. That has become a little bit more kind of easily for me to connect the dots. And so this is where root cause healing is so important, right? So fatty acids can also be dry skin and dandruff, but again, that can also be related to candida. So, but for me, I noticed that she, has these needs for fatty acids. And so where do we get our fats? Right? If you think about why would she have dry skin when she's a carnivore, she eats the fat on ribeyes, and it is the omega-3s, the fatty acids from fish. So the DHA, the EPA, if you are not eating enough fish, which I feel like most carnivores do not, because we don't tend to crave fish anymore once we eat carnivore. So I notice a lot of clients are fatty acid deficient, or I recommend them to take more fish oils or at least consume 4 servings of fish a week. And most clients don't want to do that because they're just like, I don't feel like sardines or salmon roe or, whatever fatty fish that you can get a hold of. But you need fatty acids. Look at this. So if you feel muscle fatigue, it may be because you are deficient in fatty acids. If you think about it, if you don't have enough of the fat from your body or your foods, it's going to start pulling it from your skin. So that is how we get dry skin. That's one way we can get dry skin. These are her deficiencies. So these are where, I like to look at the top 5 based on score, but then I also like to look at the top 5 based on percentage. So even though this one is pretty low on the list, I see that she's hyperglycemia. So I know this person was diabetic before, so her body's probably still trying to balance blood sugars, right? So it's showing that she has lower energy and so she's getting a hyperglycemic response. But the first thing is, if you notice, it's saying that she is deficient in hydrochloric acid. So even though on the first slide, so her upper GI shows medium priority, but it's not the highest one, not as much as fatty acids, right? But if you look here, her number one thing is the GI hypochlorhydria. So for me, I'm going to guess now that even if she gets some of the omega-3s from her meats, she is not breaking it down enough in her stomach to then absorb the nutrients in her small intestine, which also is showing dysfunction, right? So it's right here. So then it is telling me that, okay, so even if she were to eat a lot of fish or eat a lot of meats with fats, the fact that she doesn't have enough hydrochloric acid, she's probably not going to break down most of it. And then because her small intestine is imbalanced, she's probably not going to absorb a lot of it. And so for her to then have fatty acid deficiency, if she's also not eating fish, and again, this is where I would do the questionnaire, makes sense why she's so fatty acid deficient. Her immune allergy is going to be, again, related to the small intestine. If your immune response, 80% of the immune cells are in your small intestine, this is where maybe like you are starting to get a histamine response. Majority of the mast cells are in your small intestine. Maybe, or removing histamine foods, maybe those are all Band-Aids, and maybe we fix the gut, right? Where again, that's where most of your gut health or your immune health is. When people ask me, okay, well, what should I take for my gut? Without taking this assessment, I'm not really sure what part of the gut. So your GI, upper GI hypochlorhydria is going to be different from someone that has small intestinal needs. It may be the upper GI needs some hydrochloric acid. It may need some digestive enzymes, depending on your fat. So the liver, gallbladder, that'll also depend on a different supplement. And then there's the small intestine, which is the probiotics, which I think majority of people really need probiotics anyway. And then, but there's a level of care in terms of even the small intestine. So I am coming out with a probiotic kit, which kind of has the most powerful probiotics as a complete package that you can take if your small intestine is really imbalanced. So if you have really bad immune health, if you have SIBO, if you have leaky gut, these items, or if you've been on multiple rounds of antibiotics, all of these things, this probiotic kit may be super beneficial for you. Now, if you don't have these issues, then I think just a gut healing kit may be sufficient. So the next slide is basically potential nutritional deficiencies. So you can think that the deficiencies on the consequences of the other page is then what's causing the deficiencies on this page. So if you see the first one is essential fatty acids, that's not a surprise, right? Her first kind of main priority issue on the first page was fats. So for this particular person, I would probably have her take fish oils and then have her also take a fish oil supplement just for a few months so that she can then rebalance. And then she could take this again. And if it lowers, then I would have her slowly taper down down on the supplements and keep in the fish amount and then see if it stays consistent. And then again, it's just having sessions to kind of see what's going on. The mineral alkalines ash is related to electrolytes. So obviously she's not balancing. Again, she was diabetic before. So the question is, does she also have high blood pressure needs, right? So this is a conversation I would need to have with her. And then vitamin B is B1 and vitamin G is B2. So I'm seeing also B12 here, B6. So she, maybe because of the lack of hydrochloric acid, even though she's eating meats with really high B vitamins, she is still showing a deficiency. And the thing is, B1, which is in mostly pork, that is a deficiency. It's thiamine, and you need thiamine for so many different things. It can even help with mineral balancing. So again, this is why I think a more well-balanced carnivore diet is beneficial. If you eat only beef, and I wrote this in one of my blog posts recently, but if you eat only beef and you eat even like 16, 20 ounces, you're going to get maybe 30% of your thiamine needs for the day. Whereas if you eat pork and you just had pork belly, if you had 9 ounces, you would have your full amount of thiamine in a day. So this one is mine. The dates are wrong, so I wouldn't look at it. So if you see up here, there's 2 that say February 12th, 2019. But if you see, I was still struggling with sugar handling, right? So I still crave sugar. It was very obvious. You see it here. And then you see though, the upper GI needed support, right? So I was deficient in hydrochloric acid. Makes sense. I used behaviors with my disordered eating, and I probably was messing with my hydrochloric acid. I also have been on antibiotics. I was on it for mastitis. I also took a lot of laxatives that probably messed with my gut. That's probably the large intestine. And so if you look at this, what's so awesome with this assessment is that when you take this at points of time, you can then see your results, right? So you're not going to remember how you answered these 400 questions, and you can come back and then see the change that's happened. And so for me, when I was keto, basically, I was still struggling with blood sugar imbalance. And if you see right here, if you remember, sugar handling and everything to the left is related to root cause, and then everything to the right are your consequences. So you see that sugar handling is going to mess with your cortisol, which will then affect your adrenals, right? So there's no surprise that my adrenals are still really high at this point. So if you see that as I was working on my macros, I started taking digestive supplements, I took probiotic, I did my gut healing kit basically. In March of 2020, right, you see my needs for upper GI, liver, everything is in the low priority. Like this is where we want to get people. If I only took the test in March, then I don't know if there's a big jump, but because I was the same person that took this test, you see the differences in my results. And it's crystal clear that there's been some healing. And this was based on my diet, right? So eating a clean meat-based diet, removing some of the dairies that were maybe kind of addictive or irritating me, lowering my macros in terms of protein grams so that I wasn't waking up in the middle of the night because of our cortisol response. And then I was eating more fat to support my hormones, right? So look at my thyroid. And then look in 2020, there's nothing. I took no thyroid medication. My T3 has actually dropped more than anything. But as I worked on balancing the root cause areas, so my gut health, minerals, fatty acids, sugar handling, the rest of the areas just naturally decreased. So this is what, in essence, for me, is root cause healing and then working on the gut. I no longer take any of these supplements. Sometimes I take a fish oil just because I don't eat enough fish. I think I don't eat it 4 times a week. And I notice a difference in my dry skin, and I notice it in my muscles. So like if I'm going upstairs and my muscles kind of feel weak, that's when I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like getting deficient in fatty acids. So I definitely recommend always eating at least 4 servings of fish a week. And I have a video on omega-3s that you can watch too. Since I'm not taking any more clients, I can't offer this to people. If you take this, I am offering this as kind of like an a la carte. It is just the symptom burden assessment, and then you could take it again later to see your results, like after maybe 6 months. But I give you a write-up. Yes, it is not as detailed as my initial consult write-ups, and you can ask any of my clients, they're like 30 pages, but this one will at least give you the recommendations for macros, hydration, what supplements you may need initially, what root cause areas you want to focus on. Now, I won't have all the information because I didn't work with you directly, but this will tell me a lot of what I need to look at. This is really worth taking the time and doing this assessment so that you can finally start figuring out what is going on and how you can best support yourself to get to root cause healing. I hope that this video was helpful for you. If you know someone that may benefit from doing a symptom burden where they're just so sick that they need support, I highly recommend that you share this video. If you find my work is helpful, please make sure to subscribe. Please make sure to share. This is how I can grow and help more people. All right, guys, you know the drill. Make sure to eat a lot of meat. Take care of your bodies because it is the only place you have to live. I will talk to you soon. Take care, guys. Bye.